apologize for that little period of loss of image there. We don't know exactly where those images are. Perhaps they've shown up in another church service somewhere at random. Someone who hasn't already announced that the flatliners are doing something. Just sticks with you, doesn't it? So, St. Paul this morning for us, to that little congregation he started and cared about so deeply in Galatia. Lots of advice here for us as we seek to live by the values we've been taught, as he reminded the people of Galatia and reminds us this morning that we've been given a guide or a map or a blueprint of values as we discern from the biography of Christ and his teachings and his ministry what it was he valued most. Simple answer, of course, is love. How do you live that out? What does that parse down to be? In the message, he puts it very nicely. He says, let us make sure that we don't just hold it as an idea in our head or a sentiment in our heart, but work out its implication in every detail of our life. Because it's fairly easy, isn't it, without having a sense of what it actually means in our lives, to say that the most important value is love. The greatest commandment is to love God, love our neighbors, and love ourselves. And here's Paul saying, don't spend too much time giving yourselves congratulations, but don't compare yourself. And in that both and scenario, Paul is very helpful, I think, today. For example, he says, don't waste your lifetime comparing yourself to others. You know, you can't go wrong with that advice. But how hard is that in our world? Our ads all the time are comparing ourselves to unknown, morphed images that have been changed by a million photographic episodes. We're comparing ourselves financially. It's just everywhere we look, we are encouraged to compare ourselves. So when Paul says, don't waste your life comparing ourselves, it is it not, one of those things we have to strategize daily how not to. How do we respond? How do we push that reset button when we begin to hear that impetus to hold ourselves up to anybody else or to hold anybody else up to us? How do we push that button that says, I want to reset that value? Because that's what it means to work it out in detail. Sometimes we can be surprised by our own inability to have done that. Excuse me. Now, I think I've shared with you that I did my undergraduate at Trent, and I know I'm not the only one here who did, a small liberal arts university in Peterborough, Ontario. But Cheryl didn't go to Trent. She did her undergrad not in Toronto, but in another city in Ontario. And in her third year, they had a sociology of education class, which was at 8 o'clock in the morning. Now, anybody who had electives didn't choose them at 8 o'clock, did they? So you know she had to be there. Well, the good news was on the very first week of class, this very alternative type professor, kind of everything you imagine for a professor in a Baptist university, and then the opposite. Long hair, blue jeans, casual clothes, said to the class, on whose ears his words fell like a bomb, B-A-L-M, he said, you don't have to come to this class. As long as you have your assignments in on time, and he gave a full, set of readings and assignments, as long as you're here on time to write the exam, you don't have to come. This is not like other classes. No surprise here. They took him up on his word, right? They met in the library, did the reading, they had their assignments, and on the day they had to bring them into class, a group of about 14 of them, I guess, appeared. They were, needless to say, total strangers to the professor because they hadn't been coming to class. They were surprised that he was livid, that they had taken him up on his generous offer. Because I offered you that freedom, he said,
You should have responded to my generosity by coming to class. Now, that's what we call bait and switch, is it not? If you had a professor say you don't have to come to an 8 o'clock class, you're going to give him a good review, aren't you? You're going to go online and say, this guy really knows what he's doing. After he does that to you, you put in your new review, 1 star. But the reason I love that story, by the way, the 14 did pass, but it was a very tense classroom, is that I think we do that sometimes. We try to make the magnificent gesture. We try to say, I'm not going to compare myself. We reassure ourselves or our families or our loved ones or whatever, this is our goal, but that is so hard to live it out. That he, didn't live it out in public, a story that's still told by that class and everybody who's heard it. But we do that. It's so hard to live out those commitments in a way that's life-giving to us, but also faithful to our call. And so here we have this wonderful reading from St. Paul, encouraging us not to overestimate our value, which I think that maybe the professor had. But Paul isn't saying to us, think less of yourself. He's saying, think of yourself less. Not think less of yourself, but think of yourself less. Such an important gift for us. How then do we keep on reaching out? Well, how do we do that in positive ways? Do you remember the 1990s phrase, you shouldn't should on yourself? Don't should on yourself? Well, when it first came out, I think we all smiled. But it is that sense of owning what you do, because it's truly you living out your calling, your values, not living out the values that you've absorbed from some way, like that professor had, without actually thinking what the implication is in detail, as Paul says. So if we hear ourselves saying something should be happening, we just put the reset button down as a pause. And think about the things that you finish that sentence. Somebody should be doing something. This shouldn't be happening. Whatever it is, just pause and ask yourself, where did that come from? Is that my parental voice? Did I grow up with that? You should boil broccoli till it's pale gray. I know whose voice that is. You should pay your taxes on time. That's the other half of the coin. So when you push down the button, it's not to say that how you're going to finish that sentence is wrong. You may still believe that. You may still love that you own it, but that you know it's now yours, not something that you've mindlessly or consciously just inherited, because we're bombarded with messages. And in fact, most of those messages when we're young save our lives, right? You shouldn't play in traffic. You shouldn't put your hand on a hot burner. You shouldn't approach an unknown dog. I mean, these are really good things. At some point, we're old enough to push the button down and say, well, why aren't we putting our hand on our burner? Okay, that makes so much sense. I don't have to think about that anymore. But Paul asks us to own what we're doing, because then whatever we do flows from a sense of congruence. So in our threshold video that Stella made, she talks about sometimes you're doing the right thing, but you haven't thought it out. So that's really hard to sustain. When you push the button, it gives you a chance to bring it all back into line. And it becomes congruent for you. Your values become, your purpose is reset to your values. It's in alignment, and that is an energy releaser. And so the energy is released to continue to do the things that you truly believe you are called to do. Not because you are comparing to what other people are doing, positively or negatively, but just in the middle, you sink yourself in to the mission that you honestly believe is what you are here to do, your purpose. So after you've pushed the reset button, and journaled or photographed or gone for a walk and thought about it, Paul invites us to pray, just to stop, to take it to the Spirit somehow, however you do that. Some people pray by doing sand in a Zen garden, just there on their desk. Some people walk a labyrinth, a wonderful tool we explored 2 Lents ago here. Whatever it is, however you pray, take that purpose conversation into prayer. And as it is a release for you, you have that sense of new energy, and your energy and other people's give us what St. Paul calls a more generous common life. People living out their purpose together, a really positive gift. We've seen that so often. It's just a reminder. There's so many circumstances in the New Testament where they're trying to figure out, does this thing get brought into our new religion? Now we're just making Christianity. What comes with us? Well, we're just making Christianity for the year 2023. What comes with us? What do we need to put aside that we have room for something new to come in? So this is the invitation to reset, to reclaim, to reinvigorate the values that will give us a vibrant common life, having sunk into our own purpose, each one of us by ourselves. And then maybe we won't be caught by having our own words held up to us that we haven't followed through on them, because that's such a painful experience. But it does happen to us when we're not fully mindful of how we are living our values and expressing our values and our purpose. So if you can imagine a world in which we live, in which the world lives according to those beautiful values, and take the time to imagine that world, how would we be part of it, I wonder? I wonder how you would live. I wonder how our church would be, our country, our city. So Paul is right, I believe, in this case. We should be praying about our purpose, that we reset it with integrity, alignment, and intention as we enter into this wonderful season together of purpose, value, and reset love for the common life. Amen.